What started as a routine Senate hearing quickly turned into a tense confrontation after Senator Sheldon Whitehouse pressed Attorney General Pam Bondi over a $50,000 cash payment allegedly delivered by the FBI in a paper bag. But when Bondi repeatedly refused to answer what happened to the money, the hearing spiraled into a much larger clash over corruption, Epstein records, Kash Patel, and threats against federal judges.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Bondi, good morning.
Good morning.
What became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI paid to Mr. Homan in a paper bag, evidently?
Senator, as Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review by the FBI, agents, and DOJ prosecutors. They found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing.
And that was not my question. My question was, what became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI delivered, evidently in a paper bag, to Mr. Homan?
Senator, I'd look at your facts.
Are you saying that they did not deliver $50,000 in cash to Mr. Homan?
Senator, as recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review
different question.
by the FBI agents,
That's a
by
different
Department
question.
of Justice prosecutors. They found no evidence of wrongdoing.
That's a different question. What became of the $50,000? Did the FBI get it back?
Mr. Whitehouse, excuse me, Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to talk to the FBI.
The report to you, can't you answer this question?
Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to discuss this with Director Patel.
Did Homan keep the $50,000?
As Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr.
Never
Homan
mind. I can see I'm not going to get a straight answer from you to a very simple
by
question.
the FBI agents and the DOJ.
Do
They
you know,
found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. You know, you're very concerned about money and people taking money, and you rail against dark money.
Wait a second.
Yet you work with dark money groups all the time, Senator Whitehouse.
Did you know whether or not in that investigation they looked at whether the $50,000 payment to Mr. Homan was declared by him on his tax returns?
Senator, I would be more concerned if I were you when you talk about corruption and money that when you pushed for legislation that would subsidize your wife's company.
The questions here are actually pretty specific. So having you respond with completely irrelevant far-right internet talking points really is not very helpful here. I'd like, Mr. Chairman, you generally like to have us be able to get answers to know, and we'll follow up with the QFR. And to the extent Patel wants to answer, that would be great as well. What happened to the $50,000? Did Homan keep it? Did the FBI get it back? If he kept it, did he put it on his tax returns? Pretty simple questions. Homan was the same guy who said there was a deal with Eric Adams. He said, if Adams doesn't come through, I'll be back. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, where the hell is the agreement we came to? Which brings us to the OPR investigation of prosecutorial misconduct by Emil Bovee, because he was also involved in that transaction. Yeah. What became of the OPR investigation of prosecutorial misconduct by Emil Bovee?
Yeah, Senator Whitehouse, to correct you for one moment, that would be the Honorable Judge Emil J. Bovee III to you.
Not at the time of this. He was an employee of the Department of Justice. And what became of the OPR investigation?
It's all pending litigation, Senator. I can't discuss pending litigation nor personnel matters.
OPR customarily publicly says when there's an investigation, and at the end of it, they provide a summary. Why can't you say whether there's an OPR investigation and whether, if it's concluded, there's a summary?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss personnel matters.
Even public ones?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss personnel matters.
So, Kash Patel told this committee that his grand jury testimony after immunization, after initially pleading the Fifth, was, and I quote, sealed by the Department of Justice. How and when and why was his testimony sealed, and by whom?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss any testimony, especially testimony that could be sealed with you.
No, the question is, was it or was it not sealed?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss that with you.
Well, he also said that he worked with the Department of Justice to have his transcript released publicly. How and when was his transcript released? Presumably, if he released it publicly, that's something you can discuss because it's public.
Well, Senator, I believe you discussed that with Director Patel.
And I'm asking you because he said the Department of Justice made this decision and you run the Department of Justice.
I would refer that to Director Patel.
Even though you run the Department of Justice and he testified that the Department of Justice released his transcript publicly.
If it is released publicly, we will get you a copy, Senator, gladly.
If, being a rather important word there, when your FBI director testified that that was a fact. Treasury compiles suspicious activity reports, referred to often as SARs, that DOJ receives automatically. Hundreds related to accounts of Jeffrey Epstein. How many of those Treasury SARs did you or Director Patel investigate?
Senator, I'm not sure if you're concerned because you took money, I believe, did you, from Reid Hoffman, one of Epstein's closest confidants, not only once but twice in 2018 and 2024, if that's correct. But, Senator, did you ask Merrick Garland any of this over the last 4 years when he sat before you? This investigation has been going on. This investigation was closed. Did you ask Alex Acosta that?
And Patel came to office, you said you would look into this. There were hundreds of suspicious activity reports. Some people would deduce from the fact that they are called suspicious activity reports that there might be suspicious activity. And yet you seem to have looked at 0 of those suspicious activity reports involving Jeffrey Epstein accounts. Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein? Come on.
The question is, did the FBI find those photographs that have been discussed publicly by a witness who claimed Jeffrey Epstein showed them to him? You don't know anything about that? Okay. Here's what well, no, we cut to something else. The Marshal Service is supposed to protect our federal judges. I have asked repeatedly for the Marshal Service to let me know if they are investigating or being inhibited from investigating whether or not there is orchestration of threats against federal judges, whether under either conspiracy laws or racketeering enterprise laws or aiding and abetting laws, whatever. But as you know, there's the person who says the threat, and then there may very well be somebody orchestrating the threat behind them. Is the Marshal Service allowed to investigate orchestration of threats, and do you know if they've taken one step to do so?
May I answer the question, Chairman Grassley? The time has expired.
I think it's the convention of the committee that if I've started my question in my time, you may answer the question.
I was asking the chairman.
Okay, before I go to Cornyn.
She wants to answer the question, Chairman.
Oh, please go ahead. I thought you said you didn't want to answer it.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry.
Thank you. Senator Whitehouse, I would be happy to sit down with you regarding any threat to any federal judge in this country. We take threats very seriously. I will set a meeting with you, with Director Serralta of the U.S. Marshals, and I will be there, and we will talk about any threat.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse opened with a simple question. What happened to the $50,000 in cash that the FBI allegedly paid to Tom Homan in a paper bag? Bondi did not answer directly. Instead, she repeated that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche had stated the investigation into Homan went through a full review by FBI agents and DOJ prosecutors, and that they found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. But Whitehouse immediately pushed back. He made it clear that he was not asking whether prosecutors found enough evidence to charge Homan. He was asking a much more basic question: what happened to the money? Did the FBI get it back? Did Homan keep it? Was it declared on his tax returns? Those were the questions Whitehouse kept trying to get answered. And each time, Bondi moved away from the specific question and back toward the broader claim that no wrongdoing had been found. That is where the exchange became politically damaging for Bondi. Because when a senator asks what happened to $50,000 in cash allegedly delivered by federal law enforcement, the public expects a direct answer. Even if there was no criminal charge, the basic facts still matter. Whitehouse then pressed further, asking whether investigators looked into whether the alleged payment was declared on Homan's tax returns. Bondi again avoided the direct question and instead attacked Whitehouse personally, accusing him of working with dark money groups and bringing up his wife's company. Whitehouse called that response irrelevant and described it as far-right internet talking points. That moment was important because it exposed the pattern of the exchange. Whitehouse asked narrow oversight questions, and Bondi responded with political counterattacks instead of clear answers. The hearing then shifted to another major issue, the Office of Professional Responsibility investigation involving Emil Bove. Whitehouse asked what happened to the OPR investigation into alleged prosecutorial misconduct. Bondi refused to discuss it, saying it involved pending litigation and personnel matters. Whitehouse pushed back again, noting that OPR can publicly acknowledge investigations and provide summaries when they conclude. But Bondi still would not say whether an investigation existed or whether a summary would be released. The pattern continued. Whitehouse then turned to Kash Patel and asked about Patel's testimony, specifically whether certain grand jury testimony had been sealed by the Department of Justice, and whether Patel had worked with DOJ to release a transcript publicly. Bondi again refused to provide a clear answer, saying she would not discuss testimony that could be sealed and later referring the issue back to Patel, even though Whitehouse pointed out that Bondi runs the Department of Justice. That exchange matters because it raised a basic accountability question. If the FBI director says DOJ made a decision, why can't the Attorney General explain what DOJ did? Then Whitehouse moved to the Epstein files. He asked about suspicious activity reports involving Jeffrey Epstein's accounts and whether Bondi or Patel had investigated them. Instead of answering directly, Bondi accused Whitehouse of taking money from Reid Hoffman and questioned why he had not asked previous attorneys general similar questions. Whitehouse's point was that suspicious activity reports are called suspicious for a reason. If there were hundreds of them connected to Epstein's accounts, then the obvious question is whether DOJ actually reviewed and investigated them. But again, Bondi did not provide a clear answer. Whitehouse then asked about public reporting that Epstein had shown people photos of President Trump with young women, and whether the FBI found any such photographs during searches of Epstein's safe, premises, or records. Bondi was trying to avoid specifics by invoking investigations, confidentiality, personnel matters, or political attacks against the senator asking the questions. And that contrast is what made the exchange stand out. The final topic may have been the most important from a public safety standpoint. Whitehouse asked whether the U.S. Marshals Service is allowed to investigate the orchestration of threats against federal judges, not just the person making the threat, but anyone coordinating or encouraging those threats behind the scenes. This time, after some procedural back and forth, Bondi agreed to sit down with Whitehouse, the U.S. Marshals Director, and others to discuss threats against federal judges, including who may be orchestrating them. Whitehouse responded, "Bingo, thank you." That ending mattered because it was the one moment where Whitehouse finally got something close to a concrete commitment. But the broader hearing left major questions unanswered. What happened to the $50,000 cash? Was it returned? Was it kept? Was it declared? What happened with the OPR investigation? What did DOJ do regarding Patel's testimony? Were Epstein-related suspicious activity reports investigated? And did the FBI find the photographs Whitehouse referenced? Those unanswered questions are exactly why this exchange is likely to draw attention. Because when the Attorney General appears before Congress, the job is not to trade political insults. The job is to provide accountability, transparency, and clear answers to the public. And in this hearing, Whitehouse repeatedly asked direct questions, while Bondi repeatedly refused to give direct answers. Subscribe to Capitol Breakdown HQ for more congressional hearing breakdowns and political analysis.